UFC 300 just wrapped up, and I mean, wow, what a card. It was one of the best cards of the year, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this, and let's start with that main event as Ilia Topuria beats Max Holloway by round three. Round three in a minute and 30. It was pretty impressive how Ilia just every single time he landed on Max, it seemed almost shocking. It seemed like it was freezing Max Holloway. And it was kind of a fight where we kind of waited for this moment. It felt like Ilia was going to land clean at some point, because even the grazing shots, or the shots that weren't landing like too clean, that he wasn't putting a lot of weight or movement into, still kind of looked like they hurt Max, or at least stung him a little bit. But it is interesting to see the power of Ilia Topuria. I've never seen a featherweight. The last featherweight I've seen like this is Jose Aldo, in terms of the torque and the combinations that he can put up to in this boxing range. Also with his kicks, I mean, the leg kicks were really eating at Max Holloway, and I feel like that's a lot of the blueprint to a lot of these fighters that I think Justin Gaethje should have really capitalized in the UFC 300 fight, where he really could not get his leg kicks going, and a lot of people have gotten the leg kicks going against Max Holloway, like Volkanovski. It's just a thing that Max Holloway can't really control, but Ilia Topuria does it, and I would like to say Volkanovski. He was in the cage for a reason. I don't think it should be Diego Lopez. Brian Ortega is not the greatest competition. It is great, but if you talk about the resume that Volk had, I understand Ilia knocked him out in the first. But now that Volk has recovered and all of that, I feel like Volk can really make a run for this title once again. And if Ilia beats him, now you have a star on your hands who's beaten Max Holloway, Volkanovski. I mean, this is a guy that's going to the moon. And I think the next fight for Ilia Topuria should be Volkanovski in Spain. I mean, everyone's dying for it. I want to see them in the Santiago Bernabeu. But, I mean, let's just talk about Barcelona 4-0 against Real. I'm not going to say anything else. Max Holloway, in my opinion, was winning the first two rounds, and I thought he was going to win the fight. I actually really felt the pressure that Max was putting on was just going to start avalanching with Topuria. Everyone gets caught, and it's just a bad night in the office for Max Holloway. I feel like next it should be this BMF tournament that everyone's talking about. He should fight either Dustin or maybe Justin Gaethje again. I mean, wouldn't mind any of that. I do feel like Holloway at 145 makes no sense anymore. Why would he fight a contender like Diego Lopez or Brian Ortega, Yair? This guy is done at 145. I think 155 is the new home for Max Holloway. The next fight, we had Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whitaker, and I mean, what a fight. It was a tale of, can Whitaker survive that storm, that Chimaev storm that he puts on everyone? And I'll give you a little secret, he did not. It was a first round neck crank, and if you look on YouTube, I cannot show this on YouTube, I can only just look it up when you get the chance. Whitaker has, like, his jaw is completely out of this dude's mouth. I mean, it makes a lot of sense why Whitaker tapped so quickly, which was bizarre if you were looking at it. And if you are a guy who has trained in jiu-jitsu, neck cranks and stuff like that, yes, they hurt. They are very, very annoying, but it's not something that you would squeeze that panic-like for. And so when Whitaker did tap like that, it was kind of like, what really happened? But after this picture, you will see what happened. His jaw literally separated from the man's skull. I don't know what to tell you. But let's just talk about Chimaev. And this first round, Chimaev, it's like a mythical character, because if people get past it, it's an interesting fight. But if people don't get past this, this is just a wrecking crew. I mean, how many first round finishes does he have where he doesn't even concede a strike? Did Whitaker hit him at all? Like, clean? I don't actually think so. I think the takedown happened immediately, and Chimaev was able to just really wear on him. Chimaev's pace and his squeeze might be one of the top 10 that we've ever seen. To squeeze a dude's jaw the way it got to, and to have that, I mean, this is otherworldly squeeze. It's a different level to strength. It's squeeze, and his pace is unstoppable. I think he should fight the winner of Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. It is a fight that I think everyone wants to see the rematch of, and I don't think Chimaev deserves it over Strickland, and especially making Dricus wait this long. I think Dricus wants to fight, and so I do think Sean Strickland versus Dricus would be the best fight, and then Chimaev fights the winner. Whitaker really didn't have much offense in this fight. It was kind of a Chimaev wrecking crew, and it's an interesting crossroads that Whitaker is at right now. Is he going to retire? Is he going to continue at middleweight? I feel like he's way too small to go to 205. Is 170 maybe an option? I feel like Whitaker would kill himself to make 170. It's a very weird crossroads that Whitaker is at right now, where who knows who he should fight next. I feel like out of everyone, if he is staying at middleweight, he should fight Caio Borralho. I think that's a great fight. If you're really trying to test Whitaker, fight one of these up-and-coming guys, and if Whitaker loses to them, I mean, at what point do you really start thinking of retirement, or something's maybe wrong in the training system of Whitaker? Maybe 170. I really have no idea where Whitaker goes from here. I think out of everyone in this card, this took me the longest to think of what's really next for Whitaker. He doesn't really have a lot of options right now. I would seriously say the only option should be if they make a 195 division, maybe go to that, but they're never going to do that. Then we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic, which went to a decision. Kind of all of Ankalaev fights went to go to a decision. He has very polished striking, very polished wrestling, but I don't know. I have a feeling this guy just doesn't like the risk factor. He doesn't really want to go for anything. He wants to just kind of win, get his money, get the title. He's a very legacy guy, not a prestige guy. He doesn't really want to get any respect. He just wants the gold, and that's exactly what he should be fighting next. I mean, Rakic was a very interesting fight to see because Rakic has the calf kick. Rakic has the long-range striking that Alex Pereira has, maybe not to the greatest ability of that. We saw Ankalaev look really good. Two was connecting very frequently. The body kick as well from that southpaw stance. You can't hate on a southpaw as a southpaw. I mean, I am a left-handed fighter, and so you cannot, in my opinion, hate on this masterclass. I do think Ankalaev should fight Alex, even though Ankalaev has been pretty much ducking Alex like he's the champion for some reason. It's very weird. I've never seen this before in any fucking MMA circumstance where someone can be this delusional. He should fight Alex Pereira next, and I would be very excited to watch that one. For Alexander Rakic, I would also, I want to talk about his fighting, but I also want to talk about his coaching, because the fact that someone told him in that stool at the third round that he was winning 2 rounds to none. In what world was he winning 2 rounds? And in what world are you confident that he's winning 2 rounds? So I think first thing Rakic should do is leave that camp. That camp is horrible for you. It's sometimes having so much bias because maybe this is like hometown where Rakic has been raised and everything. The hometown gyms. I don't know how to explain it other than hometown gyms. Instead of these, American Top Team. For Alexander Rakic, I would honestly look for new coaches. I don't know if anyone was hearing in the third round. They told him he was up 2 rounds against Ankalaev. And in what world was that remotely close to being up 2 rounds? I don't understand how you can have the amount of confidence to really just sit here and tell your trainer, your fighter, that we're up 2 rounds. So I think before finding a fight, Rakic, go to these high premier gyms, because let's be honest, Rakic is a guy who has great striking, great wrestling, very fast twitch when he wants to be, but he always seems like he has something off. Something's not there. There's one missing piece to this puzzle, and I think the missing piece is honestly great coaching, because he has some very odd IQ or decision moments that could be from the coaches that he has around him. This might be a hometown gym. It's not one of these A-class level gym that we are talking about all the time with these champions. And I think his next fight should be Jan Blachowicz, given the fact that we were robbed that one way before in the Apex. Rakic tore his knee apart literally a minute into that fight. I was very excited for that match, and I would love to see it happen and be reran once again. Then we go to Dan Ige versus Lerone Murphy, and I think this fight tells you a lot of decisions don't mean boring fights. Guys who don't get the finish doesn't really mean boring fights. And I want to say that to Ankalaev as well. I think the decision for his was a very entertaining fight. It just sometimes seems a little bit different when Ankalaev is fighting, where he doesn't really want to risk anything, while Murphy was really getting into the pocket with Dan Ige, and he's now done this twice in my opinion, where he's gone from this long range, this rangy sort of fighter when he was fighting guys like Gabriel Santos, to now this rangy fighter, yes, but when it does get to that clinch, I mean, Lerone Murphy's elbows and his knees and his Muay Thai, it is just beautiful to watch, and that's exactly what he was doing to Dan Ige. It was very interesting, and it was a very fun fight because Dan Ige did drop him at one point and looked like he was going to hurt him real bad. It looked like a Dan Ige masterclass, and the scrambles and the overall MMA game. If we're talking about pure MMA fight and how good the wrestling and the striking was in that matchup, this steals the card in my opinion in terms of just pure MMA. This is a great MMA fight, and I feel like Lerone Murphy once again proves to all of us that he's honestly a very interesting fighter, even if he's taking people to decisions. I think his next fight should be Josh Emmett or Calvin Kattar. I would say Calvin Kattar in my opinion, because Calvin Kattar is a little bit ahead in the rankings, but nothing like that Josh Emmett is right now. He's Calvin Kattar's 10th right now. So I think it would be just a really good boxing match. Maybe Lerone Murphy can wrestle, and I don't know. I just feel like it's a great fight to main event some sort of fight night card. I would be very excited. I would be very excited to see anyone in this top 15 of featherweight. That's how stacked this division is. And Dan Ige losing once again, but in spectacular fashion. I mean, this guy is a great fight to have. He is so entertaining to watch because of the amount of power he has in his hands. And honestly, I don't want to sound like that brain rot guy, but the aura that he brings to the ring. I mean, he has this sort of, I'm just here to fight. I'm just here to be a fighter, and I'm just here to have fun. That's how it kind of seems like. It feels like he's just having fun in there. And I think if we want to have fun, let's have fun. Let's give him Giga Jikadze. I mean, fuck it. Let's have a striking masterclass where Giga is throwing kicks, and who knows if that overhand of Dan Ige is going to land. This would be such an entertaining fight. Why not put this on a pay-per-view of some random title fight? I mean, this would be so fun. Then we go to Chama Magomedov versus Armen Petrosyan, and I want to kind of apologize to Magomedov because he gave me sort of a weird feeling that he was not as good as I thought he was. The striking seemed like it was against really low level competition. I mean, this guy was fighting guys who were first time UFC guys. So it was a little bit interesting when he fought a guy like Armen Petrosyan. This guy's beating Gregory Rodriguez and Christian Leroy Duncan, who I will get to in a second, because I do think Chama Magomedov should fight a guy like Christian Leroy Duncan after a performance like this. But let's just talk about the knockout, because he spammed spinning back fist. I've never seen this before in my life where someone swung his body to the other side. I mean, this was insane to look at, that he got a KO like this. But out of everyone to have a KO like this, it fits Chama Bullet. It fits the way he fights. The very interesting Russian MMA style that we haven't really seen because of how good the Russians are at wrestling. But guys like Said Nurmagomedov, Zabit, they have this sort of weird fast twitch sort of kicks, very snappy with a lot of things. Boxing's not the greatest in this Russian sort of MMA style, but the kicks are very good, and they're able to separate and be outside in that fighting distance. But I will say that Chama Magomedov is a great striker. Armen Petrosyan is not someone that you kind of outstrike as efficiently as he was. Armen was landing very well, but it was a Chama Magomedov, in my opinion, a good fight from him. I think Chama Magomedov was winning the fight, whether he got the knockout or not. His ability to adapt to Armen Petrosyan and start countering with that lead hook and the side kick, he was able to really mask it with his leg kicks and his sort of weird fast twitch feint movements. It was a beautiful masterclass if you're talking about just pure striking. But if we're talking about wrestling, we still have no idea how good Chama has improved that wrestling. And so I don't really want to see that yet. If we are trying to make money, if I'm thinking of what is Dana wanting to do, he wants to give him another striker. And I think you should give him another striker to continue to build this guy's name. I would give him Christian Leroy Duncan, a guy that Armen Petrosyan's beaten and is a very talented fighter and a very interesting fight. I feel like the striking, if Chama Magomedov can get past CLD, another striker that Chama Magomedov has outstriked. And for Armen, I mean, it was a close fight in terms of, I mean, he lost very badly in terms of the knockout, but he did look good in it. I would give him Roman Kopylov, another striker. I feel like that match would be very fun because Armen Petrosyan is all right as a wrestler, but this guy is very entertaining when he is against another striker.